right, everybody, this is April and June, and Preston Smith from We the People of Greater Kansas City. And Preston's got some interesting news for us today, interesting things to talk about on the tax assessment with Jackson County. Hey, Preston, how are you?
Okay, April, I appreciate you talking today with us. And our intent today of this video is that we're going to try to reach all the taxpayers in Jackson County. So there are going to be quite a few people today that may get this video. They have never seen or heard of us. So I'm going to give a little bit of background. I ran for county executive 2 years ago as a Republican, lost in the primary. And also, I was on the Board of Equalization for 14 years, representing the Blue Springs School District. So I understand the tax assessment issue completely. Recently, I served as the key expert witness for the Attorney General in the trial against Jackson County on tax assessments. So that's my background. And today, we're going to bring you some information that's going to cover three big issues. And so we go ahead and start the slideshow.
Okay.
Number one is the State Tax Commission order that they issued on August the 8th. Next, the county's response in the last couple of weeks. And then the last one is how you can get your money back that the county owes you. We're going to walk you through what the steps are right now that you can use the state law to do this. So let's go through the state order pretty quick. We're going to post it on our website so you can download your own copy. But first of all, the State Tax Commission, they have not issued these orders very often. But this is an extreme case that they've waited almost a year to do because they wanted to gather their information to make sure they were on solid footing to do this. But their very first point is that they have here, it shows in state law, here's where they get their powers. Okay, it's very clear. They've got the power to do this state order to tell Jackson County assessment what to do. It's not only established in state law, but it's also reaffirmed by the state Supreme Court several times over the last 40 years. Okay.
Wow.
Jackson County is, we'll get into what their response has been, but this is right off the bat. First section, this is their authority. All right. Then it also goes into what the rest of the state law says of how outlines what the responsibilities are for the county, and then also what the responsibilities are during the assessment. Like section 5 there says, before an assessor can increase the assessed value of any parcel more than 15%, you must have a physical inspection of the property. And in section 137,
are you saying that's the state law?
This is state law, black and white. There it is. They've got to have that physical inspection.
Wow.
And the next one says that they have to have a clear written notice of the owner's rights to the physical inspection before it occurs. So these inspection notices usually have to be sent out like in April. There were none sent in Jackson County, zero. Wow. So they totally ignored that fact in state law too. All right, so that's the responsibilities. You keep going down here. Now, in the bottom part of this page is something very, very significant because it says in number 9 in this state order, it says the commission finds and determines that conducting its biennial reassessment for Jackson County, they failed to give proper notice to property owners and failed to perform the physical inspections. Two things they failed in state law.
Absolutely, and there's evidence to prove that.
Clear evidence, and we're going to cover that evidence also in a different podcast. We're going to show the presentation that I gave the State Tax Commission last month that they helped base their evidence on to do this order. All right, it says where the assessed valuation increased by more than 15%, the county fell short. And it says since the last assessment resulting in mistaken or erroneous assessments and taxes that were mistakenly or erroneously levied or paid in 2023. This is a key phrase that the State Tax Commission wrote into this order deliberately, and I'm going to explain to you and everybody else why they did this. This is part of an organized plan that was in place for months. Okay. Then the next part of the order, it says it explains where the county broke the laws. Let's go through these just for a second. First of all, they did not notify in
Okay.
writing. I mean, this is their sins. This is it. They did not notify in writing most property owners where their assessed valuations increased by more than 15%, that a physical inspection was required. Step one. Then they didn't notify the property owners that a physical inspection was required and didn't provide clear notice of the owner's rights relating to that inspection. They had to do this like in April and spell out, you've got this right to either have an inspection or reject it, or have an interior inspection also during the physical inspection. No one was told any about this. They totally ignored that law. Then it says number C, many notices were sent to property owners that are undated. They had no postmark stamps on any of these.
Really?
That was deliberate. They bundled these up without any postmarks at all. Imagine that. How many other things have you mailed in your life that you've been able to mail without a postmark? Well, somewhere in Jackson County figured out how to do it. Right. They bundled all these up to make sure that none of them were postmarked. So they worked really hard to do this.
That is actually, just so you know, that's actually a postal violation also, because the post office is supposed to go through each one of those and stamp them themselves.
You would think, but here it is. And look at number D. It says they did not physically inspect many properties in the manner required. So they fell short there. All right. The next one, number E, the Board of Equalization. They conducted appeals in such a manner as to provide taxpayers with insufficient or misleading information as to the Board of Appeals process, insufficient physical accommodations, making it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for some taxpayers to pursue their appeal rights, expressly or impliedly told taxpayers, contrary to law, the burden of proof at the Board of Equalization hearings was on the taxpayer, refusing to recognize evidence as to valid comparable sales provided by taxpayers, undue interference by the Jackson County Assessor's Office in the affairs of the Board of Equalization, and other unfair and improper conduct resulting in the overall denial of due process to Jackson County taxpayers. This is incredible. I mean, just nailed them.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, this was
so ridiculous.
It is, and it called them out on this. And the thing is, we've had thousands of taxpayers tell us this last year of what they had to endure.
Yes, they did.
Here's the Board of Equalization. The three key people were all appointed by Frank White, and they have become nothing but lapdogs to the county administrator and to Frank White. They're disgusting. And the number 10 point is failures described herein were widespread and systemic, affecting at least 75% of the parcels in which requirements were applied.
That
Bingo.
is wow.
I mean, yeah, this was wow. I mean, I knew for a long time that this order was going to happen. I had no idea it was going to be this strong. I mean, they really nailed it. All right, so then this next section here is what the State Tax Commission is telling the county they have to do. And this is important. First of all, they shall correct the assessment roll of all parcels that do not exceed 50 of the valuations. Here it is. You've got to fix those that went up more than 15% because they were done wrong. And those that have still the appeals before the BOE, it says if they don't exceed the 15%, you roll those values back to whatever is less. So you cannot go up in the appeals process right now. They pretty well said of the 8,000 or 9,000 appeals that are still pending out there, you need to roll back to what they were with not more than a 15% increase, period, which is incredible. I mean, this is a slap down. The number 3 is the 30 days from the day of the order, and that would be on September the 6th. They shall review all classes that have been submitted to the Tax Commission for approval and shall notify the Tax Commission of all stipulated amounts that exceed the valuation of limits. So if you've got any agreements that were more than 15%, the Tax Commission has to know about those, and what they'll do, they'll roll those back too. And then the number 4 is they shall remain the same.
August 22nd.
Here it is. And now in 2024, this right now, you put them on the rolls as corrected by the order. So they want to fix this tax bills before they go out in October. So that fixes right there this assessment, this tax year. And then the fifth one is really the most important one, because this is what the tax commission people told me during the trial. When they said, look, we want to make sure this never, ever happens again in Jackson County. So what is the fifth one says, they shall take all necessary actions to ensure future compliance of the state laws. So you better not let this happen again. You better abide by the state laws from here on. Because you know what is going to happen if they don't abide by the state laws again? They're going to get another order and another slap down. So that's why they're saying you better not do this again.
So Tyler Technologies was tasked with doing all this, right?
Yeah, the $17 million contract that they had from the county to run the assessment, and they dropped the ball completely. They lied. They didn't fulfill their contract, and you know what? Nobody in the county seemed to care. So complete negligence, didn't abide by the contract, $17 million down the rat hole, and nobody cares. Okay, that's where we're standing right now.
Wow.
All right. So when the attorney general dropped the lawsuit, and I believe he dropped it because, frankly, he did not want the attorney general to go under deposition. The county saying it's because the attorney general was going to lose. Not so, not so. Total lie. I mean,
yeah,
we had proven the case that they had violated the state law, and it was obvious.
Obviously, I mean, the state just said how they did that.
And we had the assessor lying under oath. So to say that we were going to lose that case, that was not so. But when they dropped the case in Jackson County, they also dropped the case against Tyler Technologies next spring. So he lost that too. But here's the response that the county made a couple days after the state order came in. This is an email from the assessor, Gail McCain-Beatty. Jackson County is still reviewing their options as it relates to the STC order. At this time, I cannot tell you if or when the county will provide an updated assessment. So here it is, like within days, a couple days, like, oh, we don't know if we're going to comply or not.
She's already defined.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me say that.
Blatant and arrogant.
Let me say, if you do a nationwide search to find instances where county governments have defied state regulatory orders, you can find 3 or 4 of them that have happened in American history, and it's related like to gun orders. A county clamps down tighter on maybe what the state or the federal government has for gun laws. But in all those cases, if you go back and review all those cases, eventually the county had to comply with the state and the federal laws. They could not do their own thing. So here it is. We've got case law in the state of Missouri that gives the state tax commission clear power. It's a state regulatory agency that has the power to do what they've done. And for Jackson County to say, gee, we don't think we're going to comply. Eventually, they're going to comply. They may try to take this to a court. They may actually do a conjunction to try to slow things down. Eventually, they will comply because they're going to lose. And for them to think they're going to win, they are dreaming.
Can't they face criminal charges if they keep doing this? I mean, to me, it's clear corruption.
Well, it clearly seems to me it would cross the line too, because they don't have a basis for doing this other than that, gee, we don't want to comply. All right, so that's where we're at right now. But now here's what they've done in the last week, though. They decided to escalate this. They had the county administrator saying out here, if you think you're going to get a refund, you're dreaming. It's not going to happen because the county's already spent the money last year. So there's no money. Okay. Which is obvious because it's a year after the fact. So the county's like, don't get your hopes up because you're not going to get your cash. And then I got this just yesterday through my Sunshine Act. Frank White had written every tax entity in Jackson County, sent out over 50 or 60 letters to the people and says, we're going to scare you. This is nothing but political motivation and unjustified actions in the state tax order. Here it is. I love this paragraph here. This next one. I want to read this paragraph. It is essential to highlight this order does not assert that any property valuations were inaccurate. This is what they're telling the school districts. The claims were made in order to appear baseless, as no hearings have been held and the information presented lacks accuracy and transparency. The timing and I mean, can you imagine? I mean, this is their attitude. The timing and nature of this order strongly suggests it's driven by political motives rather than a genuine concern for the assessment process.
But we've been ever since it happened.
For over a year, we've pointed out these errors. And here's the state tax commission calls them black and white. This is where you've broken the state law. Yeah. And this is what they're saying. The order appears to be baseless. Really? Do you think this is going to stand up in any court?
No, his letter is just pure crap.
This will not stand up in any court anywhere. Baseless? You're going to walk into a court and claim this? No. But they are trying right now to scare the school districts to say you're going to lose millions and millions and millions of dollars. You have to shut your doors, kind of thing. All right, like Blue Springs, you're going to lose $8.6 million. Wow.
I don't think the school district's going to lose any.
Well, here's the calculations, and I crunched the numbers. And my numbers are a little bit higher than what the county's numbers are. Here's why. Because I went back to June of 23, and they went back to the numbers that were already been appealed, and people have gone through the process the last year. But what I did, I look at Blue Springs, and I had them about 11.2 million of what they'd be reduced down with a 15% cap on the parcels. And that'd be a 14% reduction in the county's money to them. But look at their total revenue. In 2023, they had $224.7 million.
Wow.
To reduce by 11 million bucks, that'd be a 5% reduction. Well, the county says, no, you're going to lose 8.6. So that's even lower than what I had. So it'd be less than a 5% cut in their revenues. Now, sure, $8 million is still $8 million in anybody's budget. But still, if you and I had to cut back 5%, could we do it? Probably. And some of these other school districts, they have budgets cutbacks of 4%, 3%. Kansas City school districts, I got them the highest, about 6% cutback. But those are the numbers. And for whatever reason, the local media has not presented these numbers to anybody in any kind of form to say, here's the bigger picture. Because this shows what their total revenue these school districts have. And here's what we're total using my higher numbers of the difference to show what their cutback would be. So when a school district says, oh my goodness, we're going to lose a 25% of our money from the county because of this big cutback. Well, the actual cutback is going to be maybe a 4.5% cut in their revenues. That's how you should look at it. The total cutback is going to hurt them in their total bottom line of their budget, 4 or 5%.
You know, I really don't like the words misinformation and disinformation. And I'm going to just leave it at that because I don't think that represents exactly what they're doing. This is real information with real data.
These are the numbers based on a parcel by parcel count of every parcel in the county. Okay. So that's how I got to the numbers. And I don't know how the counties got their numbers, but probably because they used newer estimates based on the BOE appeals. And I didn't. And so here's the difference out here. Shows difference between my numbers and theirs. So we're talking 10, 15, 20% sometimes. But that's because, like in Blue Springs, we probably had more people appeal than what I had accounted for. And that's why we had a bigger difference in the county's numbers versus mine.
Well, even at the higher number, let's just say it's 15%. Let's just say it is. That's still not that much. I mean, you can cut out 15% pretty easy on most people's budgets anyway.
Well, the thing is, April, it's really not, it's 15% cut of the county's money to them, but their total revenue count would be a drop of 5%.
Yeah.
So it's the yellow column that's the bottom line number.
Right, right.
All right, wow. So now let's shift gears for a second.
Okay.
Here's what the county misinformation has been over the last week. First of all, they have claimed that the State Tax Commission cannot retroactively go back in time and change assessed values. This is a lie. Here's the state law. Here's a state law that says they can. And here it is. They can go back, and it says the State Tax Commission can go back, do the decisions and relating to prior years of the political subdivisions taxes, prior years. This gives them the power to go back in time up to 3 years. Okay. And then it says also, they can go back in time and they can do it. So the county is trying to lie to people and say this is not so. All right. The next thing is they're saying they don't have the authority. Again, I already told you there's state laws there from the state Supreme Court for 40 years. They do have the authority to change assessed values, and counties do have to follow it. Okay. In case law for 40 years. All right. So how do we get our money back? And that's what everybody's watching this video for. Here's the process, guys. And this is brilliant. And this is a process that is built into that State Tax Commission order. First of all, here's the state law. And I'm going to read this real slowly. Okay. Because I want you to listen to it and understand it. It's in State Law 139.031, Section 5. All county collectors of taxes and the collector of taxes in any city not within a county shall, that means you have no choice, shall, upon written application of a taxpayer, refund or credit against the taxpayer's tax liability in the following taxable year and subsequent taxable years until the taxpayers received credit in full for any real or personal property tax mistakenly or erroneously levied, remember that phrase in the tax order? Yep. Against the taxpayer and collected in whole or in part by the collector. Such application shall be filed within 3 years. You got 3 years to do this after the tax is mistakenly or erroneously paid. The governing body or other appropriate body or official in the county or city not within a county shall make available to the collector funds necessary to make refunds under this section by issuing warrants. These are like IOUs upon the fund to which the mistaken or erroneous payment has been credited. This is it, black and white. And that is what the State Tax Commission order was intending for us to do, guys. They want us to make these applications. All right, so we have tried this week to talk to the county collector and say, we're going to make some written applications. What do you want us to make application to you? Can't get them to tell us. No surprise there, okay? So we're inventing the wheel. We really are. We're inventing the process and the form to use. This is a form that's used in Boone County. This a form that's used in Boone County. We just modified it a little bit. In Boone County, they recognize they make errors in their assessment, and they have a form online for people to get that fixed. Imagine that. So what I've done, I've just put out, we're going to have this form where people can download it and fill it in and print it out and say, here's what we're going to do. And I'm going to walk you through how to get these numbers and fill in these blanks. Okay. All right. So we're going to print this form out. We're going to send it to the collector. First of all, how do we get an estimate of what the county owes you? And this is a little tricky. It's going to be just an estimate. All right, say your house in 2022 was valued at $200,000, and in 23 they put it to $400,000, 100% increase on you.
Yikes! Okay, yeah, I know they did that.
It happens, yeah. So you have to find your assessment value. So to do that, you multiply it by 19, and you get $76,000, and that's what you're taxed on. So then you go to your school district, and you find the number of the school district they're in. This example is in Kansas City school district. You multiply it by that, and that's your tax bill. Now, if you've got your old tax bill from last year, just look it up, see what you paid. But the school districts take about 60% of the tax money, so this is not going to be exactly accurate. It's an estimate because you got the other the fire district, the library district, the community college district, they all take tax money too. So this is just a ballpark estimate. All right, so the tax commission said we're going to roll this back to only a 15% increase. So at a 15% increase, you go back to your old value of $200,000. You multiply it by 19 and you get $38,000 assessed. It's your tax owed. All right, so you multiply that times 1.15 for a 15% increase. There's your new taxable value. You multiply that times the tax rate. There's your tax bill estimate, what it should have been. Now, your refund is when you take the 2023, what you paid versus this estimate, and there's your difference. Now, your actual refund is going to be bigger than this because you get all the other tax and entities, but this is at least a minimum of what you should expect. So that's the number that you're going to pop into that little form, just as a ballpark. Now, the collector is going to be able to figure it out correctly, you think.
You think they're going to?
I think they're going to crunch the numbers and go back and see what the values are really going to be. So they're not going to hold you to this number. This is just an estimate. Just because you write in there, they're not going to cut you a check for that because it's not going to be right. But if you want just to fill in a number, you want to leave it blank. I don't think they'll care. But I mean, you want to leave it blank, that's okay. But I'm saying just you want to put an estimate of your savings. At least you know what a ballpark is, but it's going to be higher than that.
And can't the people audit this after they turn this in and supposedly the collector does whatever they're supposed to do? Can't they call for an audit of all the stuff if they want to?
Well, the thing is, they have a legislative auditor who apparently doesn't audit very well. So maybe the county legislature want to have like an outside audit firm to come in and check to make sure this is cut right. So yeah.
Oh, like Tyler Technologies? I'm just kidding.
No, yeah, it's a real audit firm. All right. So here are the additional items that people need to pop into their mail packet when they mail this to the collector. First of all, they need a proof of payment in the taxes. So print out your tax bill that you paid. Get a receipt. It tells online how to do this. Now, if you get a hard copy of your bill, make a copy that you paid or a copy of your canceled check. Whatever it shows that you've paid your taxes. Okay? Whatever it takes. But here's the spot on the website that you have an online account if you do that. All right, so you got options here. Next is you need to present documentation that shows why the tax was erroneously levied. And if you've already...
Isn't that the same information that they would have taken? That would have been the same information that they would have done the appeal with.
Right. Absolutely. We're not inventing the wheel here because in the last year, if you were going to make a BOE appeal or if you did make an appeal, you go through the very same steps. And so you collect your sales comp data from these dates, your documentation for repairs needed, get your sunshine request that shows no inspections occurred, which they didn't. And then do not get on the county's parcel viewer and compare the values of what your neighbor's properties are on the tax rolls. Don't do this. Okay. We've told you a million times, don't do that. Yeah, you don't do that. So, oh, gee, my neighbor's on the tax rolls for half mine. That's unfair. Don't do it. Okay. But you submit this documentation to as part of your bundle. Now, I've had attorneys tell me, say, look, we're going too far. The state tax order should be enough to settle this. But I've had other attorneys say, look, if you want the Jackson County to do this research for you, it's just going to slow things down. So go ahead and present as much as you can into the bundle to not give them the excuse and say, oh, we're delaying this because we had to dig up more information on our own. Give it all to them. Say, we've given you the packet. If you guys can read English, you can process this refund. So don't slow it down. Don't give them an excuse. Give them the bundle. Next, you want to have any correspondence you've had with the assessor's office on your property, anything you've had with the BOE, emails that show you were scheduled or what their response has been to show that you tried to work this out for the last year. Include that as part of your paper trail. Okay. Next, you want your property information. You have your parcel number and the address of the property. It's already on the form, but do it again on your paperwork to make sure it's there. So there's no question what we're talking about. If you've got multiple properties, make sure you have different parcels printed out on each page for every property you're talking about. paper clip them together and put them onto one bundle. And the last is you need to provide a notarized affidavit. State that you paid your taxes in 2023. You got the documentation that shows the value placed on your property was mistakenly and erroneously levied. And here's the notary, an example of an affidavit. I swear the information on my sworn statement is truthful to the best of my knowledge and understanding. Okay. I'll state the 23 assessment value I received from Jackson County, Missouri assessor was mistakenly or erroneously levied against my real or property, and I am making this written application to the county collector on Missouri's Reserve Statutes 139031, Section 5. I'm asking the county collector to make available fund necessary to make a refund by issuing warrants upon the fund which mistaken or erroneous payment was credited. There you have it. Take this to a notary, sign it, and send it back. That's your bundle. So this is how we fight, and this is how you mail it back. Put it in a return receipt requested tracking envelope to this guy. I'm telling everybody.
Yeah, certified mail return receipt.
And what we're doing with this video, we want 100,000 people to flood them with letters. Flood them with, walk it in there, make sure they get it, bury them in envelopes. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Now let me mention one more thing. Let me mention one more thing here at the end. And the state law doesn't say how quickly they have to issue these warrants. It says they shall issue the warrants. It doesn't say how fast. Okay? Does it say 6 weeks?
Yep.
Does it say a year? It doesn't say how fast. It says they have to make them available, and it's within 3 years you can file. This is Jackson County. Remember, they're going to jerk you around.
Oh, yeah.
But this,
absolutely, they will.
This is the first step, though. The first step is not in your court. You're telling them, I want my money. And you've got the address where the collector is. You know who to call. And, you know, I think if you email, call, and harass them enough, they are not going to sit on this. They don't want 100,000 mad people calling them every day.
And they should call them every day.
They should call them every day. You make this letter, drop it into them, and I call them the next day. Hey, you got my refund yet? You have my refund yet? Okay, you have my refund yet? And I would do this every day. I would mail them, email them every day.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for the last year, they have done nothing but create pain and heartache and jerked us around. This is our chance to get a little bit back at you. Okay.
People are in danger of losing their homes because of this tax assessment.
Absolutely. I mean, the way they have lied, the way they have broken the state laws is beyond belief. I mean, I asked one attorney, I said, okay, this is just one more state law for them to break. Okay, maybe so. But you know what? We are 100% right. We're on solid ground, and they need to give us that IOU to say they're going to cut us the check. And you know what? We stay home until we get our check.
Right. So I think that's great. I think people should do it.
So guys, this is the game plan. This is what the State Tax Commission has worked for in that order. And this is the next step to follow through. And the burden is on us to do this. Okay. So we've given you the playbook. Let's make it happen. Okay. Now, as we get more detail, as we get more details about this, I mean, people are going to ask questions. So, okay, should I still pay under protest? If you want to, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, go ahead. I mean, what could it hurt? But there's a more complicated
until I get my money back.
Well, the thing is, they delayed the people that paid under protest to make sure they didn't get the refunds first. They slowed that process down. They also made it really nearly impossible to actually pay under protest to check every box in. So pay under protest is not just writing on a check, paid under protest. That doesn't work. So there's a more complicated process to that than what they've outlined the last year. What?
Yeah, for you, what? What were you going to say about for you?
For me, the law that we've told you here to get the refund is probably the more streamlined approach. It's the approach I would use. The pay under protest is a little more complicated, and you put both of them in place. I don't know why the county would say, oh, gee, you're really overkill on this, so we're going to delay this by a year. So it's not giving them an excuse. For me, more excuses. I would use just one approach and call it good.
All right. Okay. Well, there you guys have it. It's not going to be that difficult, and they can always email us if they're having a problem getting that filled out. But we're going to put on the website step by step exactly how to do it.
We're going to walk you through this, and we want this video. We want you to share this a million times. Really, it's the only way we reach people in Jackson County, because if they don't see this podcast, they are not going to know how to do this. But if you know anybody, send this to 10 or 15 of your friends on your Facebook. Email this video as much as you can. But we want this to reach 100,000 people as fast as we can.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds great. All right. I'll post this on our website and everywhere else, and we'll make sure that people get the information.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Preston.
You bet.
Fields of gold where dreams are bred, rivers flow with a silent command, echoes of peace in this blessed land. Towers rise to touch the sky, roots dig deep, we don't know why. Whispers of old under the sand, every breath blessed by God's hand. This is our sanctuary, this our stand. Every heartbeat feels the blessed land. Grains of dirt like threads we span, all together in this holy plan. Storms rage but we hold tight, in the darkest hours we find light. A sign in every seed, every grain, sacred blood